Everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we are back with another episode of Chernobyl, episode 3. And as some of you may have noticed, some of the episodes are being pulled, they're being blocked. And I'm doing my utmost best to try to re-upload and re-edit as much as possible. So we can keep the conversation going, because one of the things I enjoy so much about reviewing this series is how much I've learned, both from watching and from the discussions in the comment sections with you guys as well. And I'll do my best to keep re-uploading, so we can keep that momentum going. Because I do feel this is one of those series that is a must watch, even if I mean, you're not a fan of the subject matter. If you're not a fan of the subject matter at all, it's still something that you need to see. And so I'd recommend it to anyone, and have those conversations and keep those conversations going, because it is an important thing to know. And I've learned a whole lot, not just from watching the series, but from discussions with you guys as well. And I know since the series has dropped, there are a lot of discussions around this being used as a scare tactic, to to nuclear power, and how it should be feared, and stuff like that, and instead of an alternative to fossil fuels and all of that. And to that, I would say yes and no, right? We're humans. We grow, we evolve, we learn, and I'm sure since Chernobyl in the 80s, the technology behind nuclear reactors has improved dramatically, I'm sure. But that said, we're also creatures of habit, and history is doomed to repeat itself, right? The so I prefer to look at it more so as a cautionary tale, to remind ourselves of what was, so we don't forget the importance of what is, right? And that's important. So it's good for us not to forget. So every now and then, if we need to remind ourselves, on through whatever the medium, whatever form of medium it's done through, however it is, we need to remind ourselves. We need to realize the importance, the importance of human life, basically, right? And the cost that at times can come with scientific progress. I think at times we tend to we get so caught up in what could be, again, what could possibly be, that we totally disregard what is now. And I mean, I recall, on the topic of nuclear power, again, it's a viable alternative. I will say that much. The only caution being that, do we trust interest groups and private organizations to make those decisions? And to that, as it is now, I say no. Even while watching this, I recall the BP oil spill, just off the Gulf, that 9 years later still hasn't been completely cleaned up. And I recall initially they lied about the level of the actual spill. They lied and said it was less than it actually was, to avoid a fine. Right. So and I mean, because it's so distant, it's so far, and many of us are not impacted by it ourselves. We tend to disregard it, or it quickly fades away. It fades from memory. But look at it, in a similar scenario with nuclear power, something that is very near, right? Something that is not that far off. The spill is still being cleaned up today. The marine life is being impacted, as are the citizens that are closest to it, right? Those persons are still being affected by it. Now, imagine that happening on mainland, wherever you are, right? Whether you live near a nuclear facility or not, you will be affected in some way or another, right? So again, do we trust those individuals, to acknowledge that they have done something wrong? As we've seen in Chernobyl, oftentimes they don't. Again, with BP, they don't. or they lie and try to cover it up. It's again, that's an important question. Do you trust interest groups to make the right decision in our current climate? No. I'm not saying that can't change in the future, but as it is now, as the system exists now, do you trust them to? And for me, I say at the moment, I sure as hell do not. Right? So yeah, it's opened up a lot of conversations, but good conversations. And I love having them. I look forward to continuing to have them with you guys as the episodes progress as well. All right, so on the last episode we did a bit of cleaning up. We're finally seeing some of the aftermath of the explosion, and I don't know. Legasov is doing his best to, he did his best to try to minimize the disaster. I tried to bury it essentially with sand and boron, and that didn't exactly go. It wasn't seamless. The first pilot actually flew in it, and I don't know if it is that he succumbed to the radiation immediately, or he hit something. I suspect it's the former, and he just lost control and then went down. But they've evacuated as much of the population as they could. But of course, this is only after their hands were forced, because the Americans took satellite photos of the reactor on fire, and the world knew about it. So the very thing that they were concerned with before, which was how they're seen in the public view as being weak, right? That's what they were concerned about, not so much the safety of the citizens. They were concerned about appearing weak on the world stage. And so their hands were forced, and they had no choice but to evacuate. But Valery is doing his utmost best right now to try to minimize the damage, and he has some help now with this female scientist Ulana, who recognized that his plan didn't take into consideration the water that was pumped into the reactor, and the destruction would have been a lot greater if she hadn't stepped in. And one of you pointed out, and I had to look it up afterwards, but you pointed out that Ulana is not exactly, she's not a real person, but she was created for the purpose of this series, to tell the story. But after doing some more reading and research, I realized that while she wasn't real, I discovered that while she wasn't real, she was based on a number of people in the scientific community, a number of scientists who detected the radiation levels and tried to warn them. And of course, as you saw, she was disregarded for the most part until she met Legasov. But she represents a number of persons in the scientific community that tried to do their best. They stayed behind because they could have evacuated, but they did their best to try to minimize the damage that would have happened. And so, I mean, there probably wasn't enough information, and they couldn't fit everyone in, so they used one character to represent them all, and that's fantastic. And many of those, from what I've read, were actually women. So, but again, they were disregarded. At the time, even though there were a lot of women in the field in that country, their opinions, unfortunately, were totally disregarded. So I'm glad that we have a character like her existing in the series here to give us a different perspective of what the scientific community back then, how they felt about it, and what was happening, and so absolutely fantastic. She's coming in. She has helped Valery come up with a new plan, and unfortunately that means sacrificing three men to go down and valves that to prevent a meltdown. But at the same time, those men would die. it's unfortunate. And those brave men. I don't know if they survived that. At the end of the episode, it would appear they didn't. I don't know if they survived or they're living today, or they succumbed to the illness afterwards. I mean, they, I believe they mentioned that they would die within the week. So I'm assuming that they don't survive it, or. But as to whether their mission is successful, that's another matter, because it seemed as though it wasn't, and that everything was going wrong the moment they got down there, and the flashlights were going out. And I don't know. I hope they're okay. I hope they're okay. Yeah, brave men, they were in a room full of people, and they were the only three to actually stand up and say, I'll do this for my family, I'll do this for my country. It wasn't the mess that they created, which is sad in and of itself, but it's one that they had to contribute to fixing. So that was wonderful to see. All right, guys. Episode 3. Let's check it out. All right, we have power. I'll be panicking like hell, man. Keep cranking it so it doesn't go out. And I mean, I assume that they make it, considering that, the damage wasn't as severe as they mentioned in the last episode. Today, anyway.
Is it possible that the water has already killed them?
Yes.
They have to submerge themselves even deeper. How will they even know that they succeed? I mean, if they die down there, they'll have no idea. Oh, they made it back. Yes. I mean, they're dead, but look. Come on, get them some help at least. Don't just stand there. That will do you no good.
What did I tell you?
Don't
hiding from you, is there?
Come on. Oh. She said don't touch him.
Yeah.
Last time it was what?
Uranium-95. That's from the cladding on the fuel rods.
Meaning what?
The meltdown has begun.
That time is up. He said it would have bought them a week or 2. I don't know how much time has passed since the last episode.
People, not to mention crops and livestock, would be unusable. We're recommending we install a heat exchanger onto the pad to lower the core temperature and halt the meltdown. And in order to do that, I'm told that we will need...
That's a big ask. Oh.
Yeah, and of course we'll also need...
Whatever you need, you have it. That should be clear
Yes.
by now. Anything else?
No. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to address the 30-kilometer...
Pissing off the right people, but hey,
I think
doing
you
the
and
right
I should
thing.
take a walk.
It's late, I'm tired.
We're taking a walk.
All right, Shabina. Can't be why you called him out here.
I've seen them before.
They've been following him. And them. They've been monitoring them.
Now you know why I wanted to take like this bug. And our rooms.
Seriously?
Even our bathrooms.
They've been here the whole time.
Of course, they've been here the whole time. But if we're seeing them out in the open now...
You've seen that? The fuel is melting
Yes, he
faster than we
has.
expected.
I know. I have a plan.
Heat exchanger, I hope.
Yes.
I love it with
It's the same question.
why are you here?
Why did it explode?
Oh.
I've worked the numbers over and over, presuming the worst possible contingency.
It can't possibly happen.
It's not possible.
And yet. Dr.
Yeah,
Nov,
they're still
they're all
around.
in
We need
Moscow.
to find them.
Hospital number 6.
Somebody did something wrong.
We need to find out exactly what happened that night. Moment by moment.
I mean, it won't stop. It
Decision by
won't
decision.
stop this problem, but at least it could
Oh, no.
prevent
Well, that's
future being watched. Six.
Fuck you. Here's one. What's as big as a house? Barn's twin.
Really? What's this? What's with the guns?
I'm Shadov, Minister of Coal Industries.
We know who you are.
How many men do you have? I need over 100 men to gather their equipment and get on the trucks.
Do you?
Why?
To where?
That's classified.
Come on, then. Start shooting. You haven't got enough bullets for all of us. Kill as many as you can. Whoever's left,
I
they'll
can't
beat the
blame him.
living piss out of
What
each
the
of you.
hell?
You can't
Just
talk to
show
us
up?
like that.
Shut the fuck up.
Yes, thank
This
you.
is Tula. Lets me know why.
You're going to Chernobyl.
What the hell for?
Do you know what's happened there?
So they're
We
trying
dig up
to
coal, not
sentence
bodies.
these men to their bed? They're dead?
The reactor
Deaths?
fuel is going to sink into the ground and poison the water from Kiev to the Black Sea.
Oh, they
All
need
of
them
it.
to do it. But they're forcing
Forever,
them.
they say. Do you need to know, or have you heard enough?
Yeah, well, you're asking them to kill themselves, so... I love this guy. We're here with this goddamn nice suit and like, oh, do this. Every single one of you, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. You need to know what it goddamn feels like. This is
Now you
your
look
goddamn
like the
mess.
Minister of Coal.
And odds are he didn't give a shit about these people until he now needs them to solve a problem.
There's bars. The line.
You know what? Oh. So they're not gonna tell them that.
Have you ever spent time with miners?
I don't think they give a shit, honestly.
My advice, tell the truth.
Andrei Glukov,
Sherbina,
crew chief.
you have my respects.
These work?
To an extent,
Smart guy, he asked the right question.
of course.
Right now.
So what's the job?
We need to install a liquid nitrogen heat exchanger underneath this concrete pad.
There'll be
There's no way
directly
to approach
underneath
from
it.
the interior of the building.
Something like that.
Is it gonna fall on top of us?
Not if you're done within 6 weeks.
I think that's the biggest concern.
Dimensions?
Break ground here. Dig a tunnel 100 danger. Because we need to keep disruption of the ground above to a minimum, you can't use any heavy machinery. It has to be done by hand.
Jesus.
Gonna need more
Dig
men.
through.
400 at least. We'll have to work round the clock. But in the morning? No. We start now. I don't want my men here one more second than they need to be.
He's a smart man.
If these worked, you'd be wearing them.
Smart man.
What's it up to?
50 degrees.
What's this miner, the head miner's name?
Fuck. Hey, you! We need fans.
For what purpose?
Brads.
I love this
50
miner.
degrees in there. We can't breathe without masks. We can't breathe with the masks. It's like a fucking oven. We need ventilation.
Fans will put dust in the air. The dust will go in your lungs.
I've been breathing dust in my lungs.
No fans.
I mean, he's right, but there has to be some way. He was down with Akimov
My name
turning
is
on the
Ulana
valve, right?
Khomyuk. I'm a nuclear physicist with the Chernobyl Commission. I want
Can
you
he
to
even
tell me
speak?
everything that happened.
He and Akimov both know what happened, whether or not they was.
Minister, but it's the miners.
Don't tell me the radiation.
We're still wearing the fucking hats. What do you want?
They're getting the job done.
You're not as protected.
Oh, there's that.
You tell them to make a difference.
Oh.
Will they be looked after?
I don't know.
Yeah, come on. Are you serious?
I did everything right. I did everything right.
You have your notes.
Yes.
Khomyuk was arrested last night.
What? Why?
I don't know. Working on it.
Boris.
I'm working on it. What more do you want from me? Fix your tie.
That is the least of the worries right now, Sherbina.
Successfully extinguished the fire. The miners are working heroically to ensure that the fuel does not reach the groundwater. And furthermore, there's no longer a threat of additional explosion. The Soviet
It's still
people
the initial one,
have faced the
meltdown.
challenge and risen to
Their accomplishments without acknowledging where
Lastly,
they
Professor
failed to
Legasov
begin
and I
with.
have been vigilant to protect the security interests of the state. And since the unfortunate release of information directly following the accident, we believe that there has been no further lapse.
Standards of the KGB.
You have.
Thank you. Professor Legasov will now speak about the work that remains.
Thank you. Given you the good news, and it is good. The immediate danger is over. Now I'm afraid a long war must begin. There is an enormous amount of radioactive debris and contamination spread out across us, completely evacuated.
Yeah, they're not going to give
Must
you
go
okay
to
for
every
that.
town, every village to ensure this. All animals, immediate areas surrounding Chernobyl, every
the
rock,
graphite
every
was
tree,
still
the
rubber from the
very
graphite
ground
was still all
itself
over the place, right?
has absorbed a dangerous amount of radionuclides, which will be carried by the wind and the rain if left exposed. So we will have to raise entire forests. We will have to rip up the top layer of earth and bury it.
Yeah.
And finally, we will need to construct a containment structure around the power plant itself, which will, of course, still be extremely...
Yeah.
What
There's no time
amount
to
of
pat
time?
yourselves on the back.
How many men do you require?
We expect this liquidation effort to take 3 years and approximately 750,000 men, including a number of doctors and structural engineers.
Begin at once.
Comrade Chakov.
O'Leary.
Yes, Professor?
Mister, do you think the fuel will actually melt through the concrete pad?
I don't know. 40% chance, maybe.
That's a high probability, though.
I said 50. By the way, maybe I'm killing them for nothing.
It's a heavy burden to bear.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Someone has to do it,
I want
Valerie.
to stop. But I can't.
Even if you
I
wanted
think
to.
despite the stupidity, the lies, even this, you are compelled. The problem has been assigned and you will stop at nothing until you find an answer. Because
Scientific curiosity is who we are.
A lunatic, then.
scientist.
A scientist.
There's something else.
Is it safe to talk?
Akimo says they shut the reactor down, and Dr. Nov confirms it. They pressed these at 5.
Apparently not soon enough.
No, they said
No.
when they pressed it, then it
They
exploded.
say 5, and then the reactor exploded. If it had been just one of them, I would have put it down to faulty memory or delusion even, but they both agreed. They were adamant.
I think Dyatlov
If they're
is the
still
only
awake.
one who has the answer.
They're not.
On mute.
They're gone. So that just leaves Dyatlov. It's over 700,000. To bury them deep underground there, so there's no other alternative but to bury them. Episode 3. I have to say this was a lot. This was a lot harder to watch than the very first 2 episodes. This was just terrifying and disturbing, and I guess just seeing the victims there, as they succumb to the illness, and according to how Valerie described it, and it creeps up on you because initially the burns are, the external afflictions appear to be the worst of it, and then it seems as though you're recovering, and then your body just begins to literally fall apart. And that's scary. That is scary. One of the things I appreciate about this episode and the series so far, it still manages to add some moments of levity in what is otherwise a very horrifying event. But the banter between Sherbina and Valerie, I thoroughly enjoy. It's absolutely love when they're they're arguing. It's like a married couple. But I love that. I've seen Sherbina in a new light. I mean, I didn't dislike him, when he was introduced last episode, but he did come across as, initially he came across as, a by the books military man that just follows orders and gives orders. But towards the end of last episode, and even more so this episode, it's clear that he cares about his countrymen. We saw where, first off, he didn't have to tell Legasov that they were, the place was bugged and they were being watched. And he said, let's take a walk. We need to take a walk. And so now he knows. That shows he does, to an extent. He cares what happens to Legasov. I don't think it's just because, okay, we need him to solve this problem. I don't think he wants anything to happen to him. And likewise, I mean, on the walk, he did ask about the boys, what happens to our boys, all the men that have been caught up in this mess, the firefighters, the soldiers that are around, everyone, what will happen to them, and even with the miner, when they had to recruit them. And I have to say that the miner, I was looking at the subtitles to see his name, but I don't think they didn't give him a name. They just miner, the head miner, right? I absolutely love that character. He's the MVP of this episode, right? I mean, the Minister of Coal and Mining came and is like, gather your men and get in the truck, and he's like, what are you gonna do? You don't have enough bullets to kill all of us, so get on with it, right? And he's very matter of fact about it, and I just love that, because for the very first, from episode 1 and some parts of episode 2, it's just everyone following orders. It's good to see that, the ordinary citizens of the country, they're not all just pandering to whatever orders come from above. It's their lives, and if you're going to ask them to make the sacrifice, at least tell them why. And as I said before, I'm pretty sure that minister, before needing them, didn't give a shit about them. That's the case in most. It's not just there, but in every country that you can think of. It's very rare that those administrators, those ministers with a portfolio, even come down to our level and interact with people on the ground. So for him to go there and ask them to just come with me, it's like, who the hell are you? They knew who he was, but where the hell are you to demand this of us? And so the miner, mad respect for that miner. He is hiding some details from his men, but at least we didn't see him tell them, because he was very smart when he went to meet with Sherbina and Legasov, and he was like, the filter masks that they were given to wear, it's like, if these worked, you would be wearing them. So clearly they don't work. And so he understood, I think, on some level, the threat. And later on, even more so when they took their clothes off, and he was like, will it really make a difference? And it doesn't. So he understands. He's no fool. He understands on some level that they're not going to be making it out of there. And that's why he asked, will my men be taken care of? And sadly, Sherbina was, I don't know. He doesn't know. And this isn't a mess that they created. It's a mess that they're helping to fix, but they had nothing to do with it. And I just love that moment when the Minister of Coal and Mining, when they left, they all, that suit. And that was spectacular, done by the director, that suit that he came out with, very clean, and by the end of the conversation, every single miner, pat him on the shoulder, and he was covered in soot, and it was just very symbolic, and I absolutely love that moment. That's my favorite moment in this episode. But the miners, it's going to be 400. As he said, he needed addition. They were going to start working immediately, but he needs at least 400 men. So they're hopefully, I don't know. I mean, everyone chipped in to prevent this from becoming catastrophic. So it's hard to say their sacrifice was in vain, but it's still difficult, because I mean, again, it wasn't their mess to clean up, and I don't get the impression that they were taken care of, which is something that is brought up several times. It was brought up last episode when they needed the 3 men to go and turn the valve to turn off release the water from the pumps, and it's being asked here as well, will my men be taken care of? And it's like, they offered them some rubles last episode, and here it's like, we don't know whether you'll be getting anything. So these countrymen sacrificing themselves with very little reward, right? They're doing it for their families, and that's admirable, but someone has to take care of their family afterwards, after them. So it's tough. And I mean, they went back in to give their report, and it's like they were patting themselves on the back for a job well done. you screwed up, but pat yourselves on the back for a job well done. Never mind the fallout and the people who will be affected afterwards, the wildlife. You know, pat yourselves on the back. I will commend them for, I mean, taking action immediately. It's like, whatever you need, you have it. But I can't commend you for correcting a mistake that you made in the first place. I don't know. And the KGB, I mean, I'm glad nothing happened to Ulana, even though, again, as I mentioned in the intro, that she's not a real person. But I imagine that a lot of scientists came under the same scrutiny in an attempt to try to find out what caused it. The KGB was probably watching them all along, and a lot of them probably, you know, even if it wasn't documented, I'm pretty sure some of them would have been detained in their attempt to seek the truth. So I'm glad nothing happened to her. She got some bits of information from Akimov and his and the senior engineer. Initially, I thought this happened because they did something or didn't do something that they should have. I thought it was them because of what they said in the very first episode. Akimov said, "We did everything right," and the engineer said, "No, we didn't." And so, but they both said Akimov pressed the button. He pressed the shutdown button, and that's when it exploded. So, is it a malfunction? So it was caused. So maybe it wasn't a result of human error per se, and that's what I was thinking initially. But now I don't know, and neither does Ulana or Legasov. You know, they still want to know the truth, and it's important that they do, because again, it's as Valerie said, it can't prevent what has already happened, but it could definitely prevent it from recurring again, because there are other facilities around. So I do hope they get the answers they need. The firefighter's wife, I don't know, I'm torn on that, because I understand that she loves him, he's her husband, she doesn't want him to die alone. But at the same time, the fact that she is pregnant and she's not taking that into consideration, and it may not even be entirely lying on her, because I don't believe they have told her what the extent of the exposure and the radiation was. I don't think they have. They haven't released it to the public, which is why the KGB is keeping everything on the wraps. So that's part of the problem. So yeah, I was kind of upset seeing her being there, because I'm like, I don't think he would want that, especially given that you're pregnant. But at the same time, the truth is being hidden from them, so they don't know exactly what's going on, or they're not educated about the effects that the radiation has. Right? So I don't fault her, and the hospital at the same time as well. The facility that they're at, I mean, they know the truth, and if they know the truth, why the hell are they not quarantining them in an environment where, you know, behind glass or something where people can't directly touch them? Because it's their loved ones, they're going to want to. They'll feel they'll want to. So I mean, the facility wasn't structured in a way to deal with this, but again, it comes back to what I said in episode 1. It's as though they have no contingencies in place, whether at the reactor or outside, to deal with the fallout of a meltdown or something to that effect. They don't know what they're doing. And that's what I get from most of this. They do not know what the hell they're doing. So they're cleaning up the mess. They need to build a structure around the reactor. It's going to take up to 3 years. What is it? 700,000 men, or at least. So there, what is it? I don't know. And the deaths could be in the thousands or tens of thousands. They can't say for sure. I can only hope that the miners manage to get underneath, and they manage to cool the reactor and subvert some of the fallout from it. But again, it's sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice. Innocent people who have nothing to do with it. And these men who are just covering their asses. And again, these men, because I keep saying these men because again, even in this committee, you notice there are no women, and it's something that I came upon in the when I was researching Ulana, and the director made it a point to say that he wanted to use her because she represents a lot of scientists who, at that point in the 80s, women made up a significant amount of the scientific community, researchers, physicists there. But somehow they weren't at the head of any of these bodies, these government bodies, even though they contributed so much, right? So they weren't at the table making the decisions. And who knows, if there were, this situation may have been different, or maybe it wouldn't have, right? We don't know, we can't say for certainty now. But it certainly sheds light on things that should change, have changed, need to continue to change going forward. Alright guys, that's it, episode 3, Chernobyl. 2 more episodes to go. Be sure to post down below, let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Hit like or subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next one.